Hello there. Welcome back to the show.
Hello.
I'm your host,
Wait,
Justin Author.
I don't know if it's welcome back, if this is going to be the first video.
Welcome to the show. I'm Justin Author. This is MsNeet.
Hello.
And today we're going to have a good old discussion on first chapters. And in order to determine what makes a good chapter, a good first chapter, we're going to react to some Star Wars books because The Acolyte is coming out soon.
All
And oh
right.
boy, we
I like
want to be
women.
prepared. We want to be prepared for the period poster.
I can relate to this. I too have a period.
So, Miss Neat, what is your experience with Star Wars?
I saw the original movies long ago. I haven't seen them since then.
You mean a long time ago?
Yeah.
In a galaxy far away?
Yeah, that's what it says on the screen here too. How fitting.
How fitting. How fitting indeed. Do you have any points for what make a good first chapter?
Usually you want to start off with an action scene, in my opinion. You want to throw the reader right into the story and grab their attention. And then leave off a kind of a cliffhanger at the end of the chapter. That way they want to continue reading more.
Interesting. I wrote down an entire list.
Oh, God. I didn't know there was going to be homework.
This is how we're going to be judging these stories. I figured it would be good for the audience to know what the parameters were for these judgments. In my estimates, the first chapter must give you a sense of the plot. It should set the tone of the story. It should deliver interesting and compelling characters that are distinct from one another, meaning that they cannot be interchangeable in personality and otherwise. The first chapter must be able to hold the reader's attention. It must not be unnaturally expositive.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said. I'd have a list too if I was told beforehand.
We should see the focus character in an appropriately interesting situation. The chapter should begin with an interesting line or paragraph, and the chapter must end with a cliffhanger that compels the reader to continue.
So what you're saying is I got a C on the test.
Hell yeah.
Yay, passing.
So, my experience with Star Wars is I have been a long time fan. Ever since I was a child. Although I was never too into the expanded universe lore when I was a child. I got into the Clone Wars, loved it as a child, come back to it recently. I'm like, oh, this is garbage. Why does this supersede the canon of everything else? Because I saw a video that explained why the Clone Wars ruins the expanded universe timeline and practically erases other canon of the expanded universe from existence. It was a riveting explanation. And then here's a whole bunch of connections that get lost as the Clone Wars goes on, and then you have like very little to work with in that. But as it is, after the sequel trilogy, I absolutely despise Disney.
I mean, I'm not even that big of a Star Wars fan to begin with. But yeah, that's probably around the same time I started hating Disney too. When I saw, which one was it? The Last Jedi? No, not that one, not that one. I did not see that one. Force Awakens. It's just like, yeah, all right.
It's just a reskin of A New Hope with worse characters.
Pretty much. I wanted more screen time with Finn. I think that's what a lot of people wanted too.
Yeah, everyone wanted to see Finn as the protagonist. That's what everyone thought he was going to be. But no, we were subverted with a girl boss instead.
But she's cool. She's wearing mummy wraps and has a spear.
No, she has a staff. No, she has a staff.
Right?
So today we're going to react to 4 first chapters from 4 different Star Wars books. 2 of them from the expanded universe era, 2 from the Disney canon, and we're going to experiment and see, will any of these books be able to draw us in and enjoy their little canon? We're mainly doing this through Miss Neat because she's not the big Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I like the video games.
As for the Star Wars books, I have only read Heir to the Empire and 4 chapters of Master and Apprentice. All right, so let's just jump into it, shall we?
Yep.
There is no emotion. There is peace. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos. There is harmony. Whoever wrote the Jedi Code, thought Qui-Gon Jinn, never had to deal with the Hutts. He ran through the stone passageway of the Hutt compound, the sound of blaster bolts echoing behind him, flashes of red lighting up the darkness like heat lightning. His pursuers would round the bend soon and have a clear shot, which made it a very good time to dash through the nearest door. "Obi-Wan," he called. "To the left." "Yes, master," panted Obi-Wan, who was only steps behind Qui-Gon. How do you feel about this opening so far?
Pretty good so far.
Is it?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, some action. He's running away from something. What is he running away from?
Their escape thus far had included no more than a 3-minute run, and of course, scaling a 20-meter wall. But in the proper meditative state, that shouldn't have been difficult. You see, I just want to know why they were doing this to begin with.
Well, aren't they getting to that? After all of this happens and he finds a safe spot, this is usually when the omniscient view would come in, explaining why they're here and what's happening.
Maybe I should find the title card real quick for this story, and then you will understand the background, because it's not going to be explained here.
It is a time of peace. The Galactic Republic, which has governed for thousands of years, has provided prosperity to many worlds and opportunity to most. Only a few shadows of conflict darken the galaxy, and these are handled by the Jedi Knights, the guardians of peace and justice throughout the Republic. One of those conflicts arises on the planet Teth, a source of corruption that threatens many nearby systems. The Jedi Council sends Qui-Gon Jinn and his young Padawan, Qui-Gon Jinn and his young Padawan to investigate, but the criminal element on Teth has chosen not to cooperate.
What does that tell us about the story as we enter into it?
That they're failing in their mission so far? Is there supposed to be like a giant overarching story? I thought this was just like,
No, this is a standalone novel, but this doesn't actually give us much into the inside of what's going on.
We'll give the writer some time. Maybe he'll explain it.
Well, let's compare it to the original title crawl from the first movie. It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia races home aboard her starship, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. What does that tell us about the story?
I see what you're saying. This title crawl is kind of useless, but I wouldn't mind it so much if he does.
Oh, this is a woman writing this.
If she does explain it later on in the chapter, like Obi-Wan takes a breath, and going into his thoughts of this failed plan and what they're actually here supposed to do, and lots of flavoring, text, yada yada yada. You're telling me she's not gonna do that?
You'll find out. The darkness surrounding them was pierced below by light streaming in through an open doorway. Qui-Gon grabbed his lightsaber and activated it, illuminating the stairwell. Obi-Wan did the same, only a second behind him, and in time for them to run out of the stairwell into what turned out to be a very large, very crowded room. So is this exciting to you so far? Does pique your interest?
I mean,
tickle your fancy?
It's just the first half of the chapter. I want to know what exactly they're running away from, though, and why they're here.
Heavy, sweet smoke fogged the air. Musicians played atop various floating platforms, which hovered at different heights above the spice-addled denizens below. From his gilded dais, Wanbo the Hutt sucked in enough smoke to fill all 3 of his lungs. Nobody was alert enough to immediately notice the 2 Jedi Knights who'd appeared above them.
Who the hell is Wombo the Hutt?
He's a Hutt. He's a Wanbo the Hutt. He's getting high on
Actually,
his hookah.
What's a Hutt again? She couldn't have taken the time out to describe what he looked like, because I don't believe that all Hutts look alike. Don't they have different colors?
Some of them are different colored. They all largely look the same in, rotundness.
I just would have liked a little bit of a description to get me more into the story.
Well, notice that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan aren't described either.
See, that's the problem is like I still have a little bit of memory of what Qui-Gon looks like from the prequels and Obi-Wan.
Well, also you have the book cover to know what they look like.
Oh, yeah. But I guess I'm giving her more of a leeway because the only people that are reading this really are Star Wars fans that are really deep into the lore. But I want to like actually get to the point. Like action for the first half of the chapter is good, but you need to slow down just a little bit to give us maybe just one paragraph of why they're here exactly.
Just hold on to your horses. We're gonna get there. I think my dog is dreaming at my feet. One of his Gamorrean guards squealed and waddled to intercept them at the foot of the stairs. This concerned Qui-Gon far less than the heavy thudding of half a dozen human guards on the steps, only seconds behind, and 2 more Gamorreans at the door.
Disconcerting. You don't have to tell me how he's feeling.
The Ketanek stumbled back in alarm, and
fuck is
one
a
of them just think of it as tall, ugly alien.
Okay.
I didn't even know what a Ketanek was, because it's such a background race. She landed atop a Trandoshan, who hissed in protest, but most of the dazed group hardly seemed to notice.
All right. I'm okay with original noun races, right, being thrown into books like this, but that's like 1, 2, 3. There's like 4 within 2 paragraphs, almost 4.
Yep.
It's too much.
Yep, this was hard for me to read through the first time. Obi-Wan's jump had taken him to the platform where Ashada Ub was playing the
Oh my
Growly
god!
harmony.
What the fuck? Okay. I bet the people are really deep into Star Wars, like you nerd, are like, whoa! If you were retarded, right? You were probably like, whoa, I know what that is.
Whoa, look at all these keys jangling in front of my face.
Yeah.
Whoa, let me paw it like a cat or something. While the Shada Ub kept 2 steady limbs on the harmonique, he lashed out with another, then spat at Obi-Wan. Poison, Qui-Gon thought with horror, but Obi-Wan dodged.
I don't want his inner thoughts. Why can't you just say Qui-Gon recoiled in horror at the poisonous ass? Like, just come on, just have fun, please.
Without consciously thinking or aiming, Qui-Gon brought his lightsaber up, over, aside, blocking every blaster bolt. They fired faster, but it made no difference. He could sense each shot before it happened.
Oh, it's just so boring.
But don't you hear the excitement in my voice as I read this?
That's the only thing that's making this bearable. Over, aside, tell me you've never written an action scene before. Sheesh. I'm sure for people who've never written before, think, what's wrong with this? And yeah, it's serviceable for mind fodder, sure, but you and me as writers, we're just like, we could have done this so much better if we had just taken 2 minutes.
Yep. The expanded universe actually has a better series of stories than this slop that stars Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and it centers around them entirely. And that's when Obi-Wan is younger. Qui-Gon is a disenchanted former master. He's already had 1 apprentice, and he's not really looking to have another one. But by the end of the first story, they come together, become master and apprentice, and Obi-Wan is allowed to remain a Jedi. And then the second story sees Qui-Gon's first apprentice as the antagonist.
Woo!
So this is a fun set of stories. And that's for young readers. That's for children. Qui-Gon stumbled as his platform tilted sharply to the left, yet he retained his balance. Barely. 1 blaster bolt seared past him to blow a smoking chunk from the wall. Even that one miss was too many. No time for hypotheticals, Qui-Gon reminded himself. There is no past, no future. Only
Stop
now.
talking to yourself! Alright, I don't know anything else about him besides the prequels. I know. Shut the fuck up, fucking nerds. But he doesn't appear the type who would always thinking to himself quietly. He seems like, I'm gonna do this. Like, very, confident in his thoughts and decisions.
Yeah.
Why do I know more about this fucking character than this bitch who wrote this fucking book?
Let me answer this in a Simpsons quote.
I don't know.
Yeah, when did those books come out that you're talking about?
The first 2 came out before the Phantom Menace. So that was back in 99.
And when did this book come out?
2019.
She had plenty of material to get an idea of how this character worked.
But of course, those books aren't canon anymore. The good ones aren't. Qui-Gon gripped the edge of the platform as it careened toward Wambo again. A few of the people below had begun to chortle at the spectacle of a Jedi clinging on to a band floater. Well, let them laugh. Better that they remain distracted.
Well, you just edit that out. Just edit that out. You don't need that.
You know what we like as writers? We like tight writing. We like it necessary.
Brevity.
Brevity is the soul of art itself. This is why we love memes. From there, he could steady himself to leap again, up and over, to land on his feet on the dais behind Wambo, his lightsaber poised only centimeters from the Hutt's fleshy throat. Now, this is an interesting predicament to think about, because think about how fat a Hutt is.
Yeah.
Now think about Qui-Gon awkwardly reaching around his throat to hold the lightsaber at it. You know, wherever that thing is. There's no difference between belly and chin. Wambo remained silent, waiting to take his cues from his captor. Without his major domo, Wambo had no idea how to handle any crisis whatsoever.
What the fuck is a major domo?
Now that I have your attention, Qui-Gon said, I'd like to discuss my departure from this palace. Muba Chachi Bargon, Wambo said sulkily, which more or less translated as, fine, I'm ready to see the last of you. You could do like an Heir to the Empire, like how Timothy Zahn does in the Thrawn trilogy. He just translates everything in parentheses as people understand it. They can only speak in like Wookiee and whatnot.
Right.
He does that a lot with any Wookiee who's not Chewbacca. Chewbacca never gets translated. Kind of fun. I like it. The feeling is mutual. Now I'm taking this dais to the compound's hangar. Fortunately, these things often could be raised or lowered between floors, the better to allow Hutts to remain motionless. To the room, Qui-Gon announced, My ship will be waiting for me there. Wambo should make a very good shield for any bolts you plan to fire. Stuka Jedi Punu Julie Minmi, Wambo muttered. Since when do Jedi take hostages? See, you could have just put that in parentheses. If Qui-Gon can understand them, just do that.
Right.
You don't waste a lot of space that way.
Or just don't do the alien language.
The Hutts can speak English. They can speak Galactic Basic. It wasn't the kind of thing Jedi usually did, not the kind of maneuver Qui-Gon liked to employ. Definitely not something the Jedi Council would be glad to hear about when he and Obi-Wan returned to Coruscant. But Qui-Gon tailored his tactics to his opponents. Against the Hutts, whose massive wealth had been derived solely through the misery of other beings, he felt free to do whatever it took to survive.
Thanks for telling me. I love it when writers tell me why this character does these things instead of like showcasing it.
See what I mean with the over-expositing?
He doesn't do this normally, but he had to survive.
Since now it appears, Qui-Gon said lightly. With that, he stamped on the controls, and the floor panels shifted from beneath them.
See how much more you could have got if you deleted that earlier paragraph? Since when do Jedi take hostages? Since now it appears, Qui-Gon said lightly. Right there is enough for me to be like, okay. This isn't what he normally does. Got it.
This entire paragraph up here treats the audience like they're stupid.
Yeah, even kids' books don't have this.
It's very simple logic to understand. Even the kids understand this very easily.
Yeah.
Granted, you're not writing to children, I understand. You're writing to people that are somehow dumber.
The people who go to Disney without children.
To the shills who coom in their pants at every single Star Wars material ever made.
80! This seems more like an Obi-Wan line, since now it appears.
Well, it does, because Qui-Gon was never quippy like this. I don't remember.
I think more of a Qui-Gon line maybe would have been drastic measures had to be taken or something like that.
Yeah, that could work. I could see this line working if he didn't say it lightly. He says it kind of somberly. I'd like it in other situations. I'd like it with other characters. I don't necessarily like it with Qui-Gon.
Yeah, maybe that's what's messing with me, because I'm picturing his face saying it, and it's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I picture Obi-Wan saying it.
Yeah, that's easy. A young Obi-Wan saying it, that's easy to picture.
I'm nitpicking.
Listen. We love nitpicks over here.
Writers need nitpicks, because then you end up with this type of shit.
Thurible's smile briefly flickered. The Gamorrean guards shuffled nervously on their clawed feet. As soon as Qui-Gon had discovered the duplicate shipment logs and the Teth records, Wambo's forces had attacked. Thurible had planned for this contingency from the very beginning, and his plan had been set into action as soon as they realized the fake records weren't fooling anyone.
Now you're expositing the villain side. Thanks.
You're expositing the reason why the Jedi are even here.
Why couldn't we have gotten this scene before they started running away? It could have been a very suspenseful scene in the beginning of Qui-Gon going through the shipment logs. Then the attack happens, and then they're running away. And this chapter would have been shorter, because there's a lot of unnecessary blah blah blah.
In only an instant, Thurible had regained his calm. It appears you have taken my employer hostage. I, in turn, have taken your student hostage. We seem to be at an impasse, do we not? I mean, I technically dispute him being held hostage. Just because he's surrounded, he could jump out of the circle.
Right. I've seen him jump.
I don't believe these guards are well trained enough. They're not gonna just kill Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is not in danger of dying. Neither is Qui-Gon by any stretch of the means.
No.
Instead of fighting his way out, Qui-Gon would have to bargain with the Hutts. It was all Qui-Gon could do not to groan.
Another break. Oh my god.
Well, this is an actual scene change.
Okay, good.
An hour later, Qui-Gon sat in the Major Domo's office, calmly sipping tea.
Wait, huh?
Thurible and Qui-Gon are alone. Qui-Gon does not have the Hutt hostage. You don't know where Obi-Wan is at the moment.
Then why? That was your only advantage. What's happening?
You see, this was my big issue when I first read this chapter.
Because Wombo can just replace his Major Domo, if anything. He's important, but he could just replace him.
Well, you can't replace Wombo, really. And
Yeah.
Wombo is the one taken hostage.
Yeah, but he's not here. Where is he?
That's a great question.
What do you do with him?
I don't know.
What did they do with Obi-Wan?
I don't know.
You see, they've both given up their hostages. What is going on? I don't know.
Claudia Gray will eventually tell us. We just gotta have this witty, wisecracking exchange between Qui-Gon and Thurible.
Thurible was different. Wombo the Hutt held his position only because of nepotism. He was unfit to lead a cartel due to both his tiny brain and his enormous spice habit. Thurible dressed like a poet or an artist, albeit a wealthy one, and spoke with more polish than an aristocrat of Coruscant. Yet everyone in the sector knew that Thurible was the real power on Teth, though of course the Major Domo was too smart to say so himself. So what do we think about Thurible here now?
I get it. He's the big brains behind the fatty. Got it. Could have been shortened in like 2 sentences.
You could have described him as a modern hippie.
Or instead of telling me what he is, you could have just described the way he walks, his accent. Something more fun than, he's intelligent, he hired an individual, intelligent, cunning, and morals, blah, 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 blah. Too much. Almost started zoning out.
Obi-Wan had been released to save Wombo, and vice versa.
Okay.
Released where? The only way for Thurible to do this and save face was to pretend the attack had been spontaneous. Until they got off this planet, it would be wisest to play along.
Or you could have just kept Wombo hostage and believed in your Padawan that he could get out of that situation.
Qui-Gon just gave up all of his bargaining power. Obi-Wan's released. You don't know where the fuck he is. You don't know where Wombo is. He probably safe somewhere.
Were they human guards or Gamorrean guards?
Humans. They're not the pig people.
He could have taken them. And, because they're well trained. It's like, alright, but I feel
This is
like...
a Force user.
Yeah, he's a Jedi.
He's a Padawan, sure, but he's still a Jedi.
Yeah,
That's a pretty
he has
that's a
Force
dangerous
powers.
thing. He's like worth the equivalent of 10 men.
This is what you call a plot convenience, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think Obi-Wan would have been happy his master giving up their advantage like that because of his own weakness.
I don't think he is in the second chapter, because there's a brief moment where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are kind of thinking about this, lingering on it, questioning themselves, I suppose.
Why are they here again?
Well, you see, there's corruption on Teth.
Why is Teth? I know I read the thing earlier. I already forgot.
The fake records.
Why are they need the I'm gonna scroll up.
As soon as Qui-Gon had discovered the duplicate shipment logs and the Teth records, Wombo's forces had attacked. Thurible had planned for this contingency from the very beginning, and his plan had been set into action as soon as they realized the fake records weren't fooling anyone.
All it says in this little beginning passage is...
There's just duplicate shipment logs in the Teth records.
Then in the beginning, it just says, conflict chaos arises on the planet Teth. Cool. A source of corruption that threatens many nearby systems. How? Why? Please tell me how, why. So that's why they sent Qui-Gon to investigate. Okay. Again, that whole scene of him flicking through the duplicated documents, that would have given me more of an understanding of what's going on here.
Could have had an interesting infiltration mission.
Yeah.
But no, we just see it go wrong immediately.
Yeah. That's not how you do a starting action scene to your first chapter, by the way, people.
And how do you do one?
So if you wanted to keep that, you could keep the whole them running away and then scene break into what happened before. Or if you don't want a scene break, you could have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan arguing about it or talking about it. There's got to be some sort of pause after the running away to explain how and why did they get to that point of running away. You can't just be like action and then more action and then more action and then more action and then more action. And then now we're finally getting to something where there is the plot and the story. But how many pages is that?
Basically 11.
Yeah, action scenes should not be drawn out that long.
Action scenes need to be quick, decisive things. Again, I apologize for the terrible misunderstanding, Thuribel said smoothly. His long, burnt orange caftan trailed just above the floor, revealing flashes of his bare feet as he continued to pace. Why is he barefoot? Is just everyone barefoot in the Hutt Palace?
I guess so.
Except the guards? Is it because they get high all the time?
Usually in hot places, they would have stone flooring. And you'd want to be barefoot because it feels nice on your feet.
Oh. There's no need for this unfortunate misunderstanding to eclipse the rest of our journey here.
I'm sorry, weren't they planning on assassinating the two Jedis?
Yes.
And now he's just drinking tea, not thinking it's poison or...
Well, it's already been established, MsNeet, that it's best to play along with the charade.
Yeah, but you don't have to drink the tea.
True, it could be poisoned.
If this Thurible guy is as intelligent as Claudia is making him out to be, he would already read your uneasiness and your distrust towards him. So there'd be no point drinking the tea.
Yep.
If we were playing mind games, I feel like Qui-Gon would have figured that out too and not put himself at a disadvantage in case the tea is poison. These are supposed to be two intelligent people trying to figure out where they stand if there's going to be some sort of bargaining. Qui-Gon's already lost. He drank the tea. And well, he already lost by giving up Wombo.
Gave up Wombo and Obi-Wan is released somewhere. You actually don't know where he is.
Okay.
How the fuck does that work? It's just nonsense.
You think Obi-Wan would be with him? It's his Padawan.
You'd think they'd all be
Together.
doing this while the hostages were still being held.
Yeah.
At a gunpoint or lightsaber point, as was the case with the Hutt. I'm also still highly interested in precisely what's happening with agricultural shipments through the Triellus trade route, especially given that the records of shipping in the nearby systems appear to be highly inaccurate. Why are we interested in this?
Is that the reason why you were sent here?
Duplicate agricultural shipments through the Triellus trade route. Highly inaccurate. Fascinating.
Jedi government sucks. Sounds like
some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Thuribel inclined his head again, though the obsequious tone had left his voice as he replied, "How good it is to know that the Republic protects its many citizens so well."
Another nitpick, too much detail about how their voices sound, how they're putting certain words. Just let them talk. If you're having a back and forth, just let them talk.
Yeah, can we just establish who's talking first, who's talking second, and then go from there? You don't have to establish anything, just voice line, and there you go. Dialogue, whatnot. And then add how their voices are when absolutely needed.
Yeah, of course. Man, this lady loves using that, huh?
Of course, Qui-Gon knew that the Hutts had been capturing and seizing these shipments, selling the foodstuffs to struggling independent planets of the Outer Rim. And Thuribel knew that Qui-Gon knew. Qui-Gon knows that you know, so... Sometimes, Qui-Gon murmured, it feels as though nothing in the galaxy will ever change.
Okay.
Thuribel straightened, obviously unsure what to make of this shift in topic. Folding his hands together, he furrowed his dark brows. Do you truly think so, Jedi?
Well, Disney will make sure of that.
What's happening here?
Why is Qui-Gon doomering? Sometimes you feel as though nothing in the galaxy will ever change.
Why is the criminal being the positive, happy-go-lucky man?
Well, because he's not truly a villain.
There had been a time when Qui-Gon believed great transformative change was possible, that these changes had been foreseen millennia ago by the Jedi mystics. How young he'd been, how innocent, how optimistic.
I don't care. We could have
This
had
is
such fun mind gaming dialogue. Instead, we get this bullshit millennial doomer philosophy set. I just hate it. I hate it. I don't need this.
Listen, Miss Neat, take the black pill. Do it now.
No, I'm taking the clown pill. How old is Qui-Gon here?
No, you know, he's like 50,
Oh,
40.
no. No wonder Obi-Wan turned out the way he did.
Nothing remains static, Qui-Gon said, but sentient beings will always remain the same. Thurible shook his head no. Changes come when we least expect them. But they do come. I just find this exchange retarded. It's so funny. Like Qui-Gon's just randomly doomers, and Thurible's like, "Oh no, Jedi, don't be miserable. Cheer up, man. Cheer up." It's like you were holding hostages just 2 minutes ago. Why are you trying to comfort him? He was about to ruin your life, Thurible.
What the fuck is happening?
He was more on guard now than he had been when Qui-Gon had his lightsaber to Wambo's neck. His dark eyes searched Qui-Gon's for something unguessable. Who knows what transformations we may yet live to see? And that was the end of the chapter.
That makes me not want to read any further. Alright, here's how you fix this. How long is this freaking chapter? Too long for a first chapter?
13 pages.
Alright, here's how you shorten. Here's how you fix it. If you want to keep your stupid action part of them running away, you can have that. Then a pause. Maybe Obi-Wan didn't see the documents. He could have been like, what was in those? And then Qui-Gon could have been like, our assassination. And be like, what? They're planning on killing us? Yada, 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 yada. And then a quick scene of them tracking down Wambo and then holding him hostage. And then they could have had that talking exchange between Thurible and Qui-Gon while they both have their hostages, and somehow they come to an agreement and they both let their hostages go, and that's how you leave off the cliffhanger of, oh, what are these two going to talk about now then, and then move into chapter 2 with that, with their discussion.
That would be a more entertaining segue.
Yeah.
Instead, we the conversation ends here, and we find them on their ship leaving Teth.
What? What?
You see how you feel right now? This is how I felt reading The Cousins. Every chapter, it ends at a place where something interesting should happen next, and then nothing. There was only one chapter where she finally went along with doing the interesting thing from another character's perspective. Now let's see. Was this a good first chapter?
No.
By the parameters I have prescribed, does it give you a sense of the plot?
I still don't really know what the plot is. I thought the entire plot of this book was them figuring out what's happening on this dumbass planet.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
That's just a red herring.
Oh, great.
Turns out the story matters in a completely different planet.
It really is a woman writer. That's how all their stories are.
Did it set the tone of the story?
Well, I thought it was gonna be adventurous in the beginning, and then they got to this weird doomering session between villain and hero.
Or Doomer Qui-Gon? Did it deliver interesting and compelling characters that are distinct from one another?
They sure tried.
So, no.
No. Thurible could have been, but
Was it able to hold the reader's attention?
the first few paragraphs, I was kind of on board, and then it just went downhill from there.
I say it held my attention in a negative way, because I'm just kind of examining it. Was it naturally expositive?
No!
All right, we have a failure there.
Yeah. Boo! Boo!
Was the focus character or characters in an appropriately interesting situation?
It was kind of interesting, I guess. I mean,
And then the hostage situation took place. And then the
yeah.
bargaining happened. And you're like, what the fuck happened? Did the chapter begin with an interesting line or paragraph?
Already forgot it. Hold on, let me go back up. Well, it was an interesting paragraph at least. Oh my.
All right, so we'll give that as...
Hold on.
Huh?
This should have been my first red flag warning. There's no emotion, there's peace. There's no ignorance, there's knowledge. There's no passion, there's serenity. There's no chaos, there's harmony.
Fucking commie gobbledygook.
I don't like it when writers add in stuff like this. I don't care about your fucking poetry shit. Get to the book. But what I meant by red flag is like they're getting into the whole emotions, man. No emotion. There's peace, man.
But you'll say without this, you would have liked this opening bit more.
Without that and without the stupid thought thing, could have started right here. He ran through the stone passageway of the hut compound. Okay, let's just remove that part. The sound of blaster bolts echoed behind. Just start it there.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what's happening?
What the fuck am I doing editing this shitty ass book?
I'll be lenient with the paragraph part and say yes.
Yes, with an asterisk.
Did the chapter end with a cliffhanger that compels the reader to continue on?
No.
No, it did not.
Are they all gonna be like
No, this is a Disney book.
this?
This is a Disney book. So this was Master and Apprentice, a sequel, or not a sequel, a Disney prequel to the first prequel movie. Shall we move on to Heir to the Empire, which is a sequel to Return of the Jedi?
All right. Why not? Heir to the Empire, you said, huh?
Captain Peleon! A voice called down the portside crew pit through the hum of background conversation. Message from the sentry line. The scout ships have just come out of light speed. Peleon, leaning over the shoulder of the man at the Chimera's bridge engineering monitor, ignored the shout. Trace this line for me, he ordered, tapping a light pen at the schematic on the display. The engineer threw a questioning glance up at him. Sir? I heard him, Peleon said. You have an order, Lieutenant. Yes, sir, the other said carefully, and keyed for the trace. Captain Peleon, the voice repeated, closer this time. Keeping his eyes on the engineering display, Peleon waited until he could hear the sound of the approaching footsteps. Then, with all the regal weight that 50 years spent in the Imperial fleet gave to a man, he straightened up and turned. The young duty officer's brisk walk faltered, came to an abrupt halt. Sir? He looked into Peleon's eyes and his voice faded away. How do you feel about this opening so far?
Perfection. That's very good. I like this Peleon guy. He is the commanding force on this bridge. Love it. And he's an asshole.
Well, he's English. They're all English, actually.
Of course they
Because
are.
they're Imperials. Imperials have
The
to be English.
colonialists.
Peleon let the silence hang in the air for a handful of heartbeats, long enough for those nearest to notice. This is not a cattle market in Sham-He, Lieutenant Shell, he said at last, keeping his voice calm but icy cold. This is the bridge of an Imperial Star Destroyer. Routine information is not, repeat, not simply shouted in the general direction of its intended recipient. Is that clear? Shell swallowed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, get put in your place.
I love Peleon. And do you have any complaints about the Sham-He?
No, because it's not after like 5 other random words. And then you kind of get an idea what it is.
With the cattle market?
Yeah.
You get a sense that there's a cattle market in Sham-He.
Yeah.
That seems very important to that place, whatever it is. So nice. We've just received word from the sentry ship, sir. The scouts have returned from their scan raid on the Abroa sky system. Did they have any trouble? Only a little, sir. The natives apparently took exception to them pulling a dump of their central library system. The wing commander said there was some attempt at pursuit, but that he lost them. I hope so, Peleon said grimly. Abroa Sky held a strategic position in the borderland regions, and intelligence reports indicated that the New Republic was making a strong bid for its membership and support. If they'd had armed emissary ships there at the time of the raid...
See, that's how you do exposition. Just one little paragraph. That's it.
And not just repetitive expositive dialogue, because you get some dialogue that exposits for you, and it's natural, it's necessary for the characters to know, because the characters don't know every single thing. Spinning around with a reasonably good imitation of a proper military turn, the lieutenant headed back toward the communications console. The young lieutenant, which was, Peleon thought, with a trace of old bitterness, where the problem really lay. You see, you get some interest in there. You get something interesting out of that. You get some idea of Peleon. He's bitter about something. You're about to find out why. But you realize the lieutenant is young. This matters for a purpose. This matters for a reason.
Man, I like the way he gives us enough information, but you see how much different it is compared to the Claudia bitch? It's still through the point of view of
Leon.
Leia, yes. It's not like somebody coming in out of nowhere like, oh, well, you see here, da 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 da. It's like he's still within the scene because he's looking down at them.
It's technically third-person narrative, but there's a focus character.
Right.
Everything is seen through his eyes,
Yeah.
or through a narrator through his eyes.
But where are my inner thoughts? I need to know how he's feeling.
You're getting explained to that he's looking around at all these people. And
I need it italicized, and then after it saying he thought.
there's some somberness to him. There had been many commanders in the fleet, he knew, who had seen the Emperor's original Death Star as a blatant attempt to bring the Empire's vast military power more tightly under his direct control, just as he'd already done with the Empire's political power.
I just like the way he wrote about the Emperor. He didn't assume that the reader already knows who the Emperor is. You kind of get an idea of how powerful the Emperor is.
Yeah, Timothy Zahn is a good writer. It makes sense why this would be the book to rejuvenate Star Wars in a way before The Phantom Menace. The fact that he'd ignored the battle station's proven vulnerability and gone ahead with a second Death Star had merely reinforced that suspicion. There would have been few in the fleet's upper echelons who would have genuinely mourned its loss, if it hadn't, in its death throes, taken the Super Star Destroyer Executor with it. You see how not everyone in the Imperial Navy agrees with the Empire or with the Emperor and his plans wholeheartedly.
Sounds like heresy.
But they go along with it because it's orders, and they're loyal to the Empire, to their people. You get more of a nuanced view through Palaeon that you don't get through the original trilogy. Even after 5 years, Palaeon couldn't help but wince at the memory of that image. The Executor, out of control, colliding with the unfinished Death Star, and then disintegrating completely in the battle station's massive explosion. The loss of the ship itself had been bad enough, but the fact that it was the Executor had made it far worse. That particular Super Star Destroyer had been Darth Vader's personal ship, and despite the Dark Lord's legendary and often lethal capriciousness, serving aboard it had long been perceived as the quick line to promotion.
I like that he explained that specific thing because it shows the importance of that being destroyed.
Yep. It's something that really matters to this character, to this story, going forward.
It says it right here. Even after 5 years, Paleon couldn't help but wince at the memory of that image. And it's not like, random narrative coming out of nowhere. Well, you see the Executor. No, it's the character reminiscing about it. And that's why the description is there. Because he's reminiscing it. Like, I'm not against exposition. It's just, it has to be in a character's point of view in some way and have an impact on the story or the scene of what's happening. Not just randomly there to just tell me about some world build you thought up of.
It's an important point that many people miss with world building, is that it has to be relative to the character.
Yes.
Not just, it's there, so look at it.
Look at all my hard work into this world build that I spent so many hours on when I should have spent hours into bettering my writing.
They had never regained the initiative against the rebels. Instead, they had been steadily pushed back until they were here. Here, in what had once been the backwater of the Empire, with barely a quarter of its former systems still under nominal Imperial control. Here, aboard a Star Destroyer man.
Just, I get it. Too much here's.
Yes.
Here.
Here, under the
I
command
get
of under the command of possibly the greatest military mind the Empire had ever seen.
Alright. They're arrogant, huh?
We're not stroking Palaeon's ego here with this one. Grand Admiral Thrawn would be meditating in his command room now. And if Imperial procedure frowned on shouting across the bridge, it frowned even harder on interrupting a Grand Admiral's meditation by intercom. One spoke to him in person, or one did not speak to him at all. What does that tell you about the Grand Admiral?
He's just another Vader, isn't he?
Just another Vader. How dare you?
Well, I mean, just in the way that you would interact with him. Everything you must do perfectly or get choked. Unless you're into that.
Captain Napoleon to see Grand Admiral Thrawn, he announced. I have informate. The door slid open before he'd finished speaking. Mentally preparing himself, Napoleon stepped into the dimly lit entry room. He glanced around, saw nothing of interest, and started for the door to the main chamber 5 paces ahead. A touch of air on the back of his neck was his only warning.
Ew.
Captain Napoleon. A deep, gravelly, cat-like voice mewed into his ear.
Motherfucker came up and did that to me on my neck. I'm punching him.
Blasted Rook! He snarled. What do you think you're doing? For a long moment, Rook just looked up at him, and Napoleon felt a drop of sweat trickle down his back. With his large, dark eyes, protruding jaw, and glistening needle teeth, Rook was even more of a nightmare in the dimness than he was in normal lighting.
There you go. You get introduced to a new character by an interaction, description, quick and short. Perfect. You hear that, Claudia?
You get an interesting sort of character in this guy. You understand he's a fucking assassin.
And he's good at it.
I am doing my job, Rook said at last. He stretched his thin arm almost casually out toward the inner door, and Napoleon caught just a glimpse of the slender assassin's knife before it vanished somehow into the Nogri's sleeve. His hand closed, then opened again, steel wire muscles moving visibly beneath his dark gray skin. You may enter. Thank you, Napoleon growled. Straightening his tunic again, he turned back to the door. It opened at his approach, and he stepped through. I just love the dynamic between them.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
It is nice.
Not everyone likes each other, who's on the same side. Into a softly lit art museum.
What type of art? That's the question.
He stopped short, just inside the room, and looked around in astonishment. The walls and domed ceiling were covered with flat paintings and planics, a few of them vaguely human-looking, but most of distinctly alien origin. Various sculptures were scattered around, some freestanding, others on pedestals. In the center of the room was a double circle of repeater displays, the outer ring slightly higher than the inner ring. Both sets of displays, at least from what little Napoleon could see, also seemed to be devoted to pictures of artwork. So already you understand that Thrawn is obsessed with art and culture for some reason.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed.
How dare you? This is a psychological threat we're dealing with here. And in the center of the double circle, seated in a duplicate of the Admiral's chair on the bridge, was Grand Admiral Thrawn. He sat motionlessly, his shimmery blue-black hair glinting in the dim light, his pale blue skin looking cool and subdued, and very alien on his otherwise human frame. His eyes were nearly closed as he leaned back against the headrest, only a glint of red showing between the lids. A nice, striking character, not a little hipster like Thurible. Come in, Captain, Thrawn said, his quietly modulated voice cutting through Napoleon's thoughts, eyes still closed to slits. He waved a hand in a small and precisely measured motion. What do you think? It's very interesting, sir, was all Napoleon could come up with as he walked over to the outer display circle. Napoleon is not into art.
Yeah, me either.
All holographic, of course, Thrawn said, and Napoleon thought he could hear a note of regret in the other's voice. The sculptures and flats both. Some of them are lost. Many of the others are on planets now occupied by the rebellion. You notice that difference in how Napoleon and Thrawn think about the New Republic? You see, Napoleon has already ceded defeat to the rebellion. Thrawn is denying their victory.
Didn't catch that. I guess I was just more in the mindset of Paleon, like, yeah, I'm here. Something's happening. I'm here to talk to you about something. I don't give a shit about your art. Urgency.
I thought you'd want to know, Admiral, that the scouts have returned from the Abroa sky system. The wing commander will be ready for debriefing in a few minutes. Were they able to tap into the central library system? They got at least a partial dump. I don't know yet if they were able to complete it. Apparently, there was some attempted pursuit. The wing commander thinks he lost them, though. No, I don't believe he has. Particularly not if the pursuers were from the rebellion. Taking a deep breath, he straightened in his chair and, for the first time since Palaeon had entered, opened his glowing red eyes. Palaeon returned the other's gaze without flinching, feeling a small flicker of pride at the achievement.
Yeah, Palaeon. You show that uppity twat.
You like Palaeon.
I do. I like the gruff guys. They're cool.
Tell me, Captain, do you know anything about art?
I don't like Thrawn. My nerd dar's going off that I want to bully him.
You can't bully Thrawn. Thrawn bullies you.
I know, that's why I hate it. He's like one of those characters that's obviously his chin is raised up and he's like looking down at you. You know, I was doing it. You can't see me, but you know what I'm
Yep.
talking about? And he's
Yep.
always doing that and he has like a smirk on his face. Like looking at an insect. It makes me want to punch him.
Sappho paintings, he identified them, circa 1550 to 2200, pre-Empire date. Note how the style changes. Right here, at the first contact with the thin Cora. Yes, I see, Palaeon said, not entirely truthfully.
Same. I zoned out.
See, you don't even need to understand all these terms, because Palaeon doesn't even understand.
Yeah, because it's his point of view. It works perfectly.
Sir, we're under attack! Thrawn tapped the intercom switch. This is Thrawn, he said evenly. Go to Red Alert and tell me what we've got. Calmly, if possible. Sensors are picking up 4 new Republic assault frigates, plus at least 3 wings of X-Wing fighters. Symmetric Cloud V formation, coming in on our scout ship's vector. TIE fighter crews to their stations. Activate deflector shields. Palaeon spun back to him. Admiral! Thrawn cut him off with an upraised hand.
You're too good for this world, Captain.
Fortunately, the scout ships have enough of a lead not to be in danger themselves. So, let's see what exactly we're dealing with. Bridge, order the 3 nearest sentry ships to attack. Across the room, 3 blue dots shifted out of the sentry line onto intercept vectors. From the corner of his eye, Palaeon saw Thrawn lean forward in his seat as the assault frigates and accompanying X-Wings shifted. In response, one of the blue dots winked out. Excellent, Thrawn said, leaning back in his seat. Now why would Thrawn say one of his people dying is excellent?
Seems like he's being a douchebag and testing something out by throwing away one of his pawns because he's a douchebag.
That's exactly what's happening.
Fucking asshole.
The TIE fighters launched, accelerating away from the Chimera and then leaning hard into etheric rudders to sweep back around it like the spray of some exotic fountain. The invading ships spotted the attackers and shifted vectors. Palaeon blinked. What in the Empire are they doing? They're trying the only defense they know of against a Mog Sable, Thrawn said, and there was no mistaking the satisfaction in his voice. Or, to be more precise, the only defense they are psychologically capable of attempting. You see, Captain, there's an Elom commanding that force, and Elomin simply cannot handle the unstructured attack profile of a properly executed Mog Sable.
That's racist.
Hell yeah! Thrawn's a big-ass racist.
Oh, I might be on his side then.
That sentry ship attack a few minutes ago. You were able to tell from that those were Elomin ships? Learn about art, Captain. When you understand a species' art, you understand that species. An hour later, it was all over.
So Thrawn's an autist?
Yes, Thrawn's big artist.
That's great.
Thrawn uses art to psychologically profile every race he comes across, to best his opponents. He doesn't always just use art, of course, but this is one of his main ways of psychologically profiling a race.
Wonder what Thrawn would think of modern day humans with our modern art. They'll kill themselves off eventually.
They are disheartened in life. They will not get up for anything but their own pleasure. And that is why we will destroy them. That's basically it.
Yep.
Thrawn was fiddling with a data card, rubbing it absently between finger and thumb as he stared out the viewport at the stars. A strange smile played about his lips. Admiral, it's the second piece of the puzzle, Captain. The piece I've been searching for now for over a year. Oh, we get some interest? Abruptly, he turned to the intercom, jabbed it on. Bridge, This is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Signal the Death's Head. Inform Captain Harbord will be temporarily leaving the fleet. He's to continue making tactical surveys of the local systems and pulling data dumps wherever possible. Then set course for a planet called Merkur. The nav computer has its location.
So I guess we're going on a quest for the second piece he's looking for.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. And this is the Thrawn that Ahsoka ruined.
Oh, that's what he was in, this Ahsoka.
Yeah, they made him a fat old guy
What?
with bad posture. Well, he wasn't fat. He was just, he had a belly
Hmm.
because he was old. But in this, he has the best metabolism ever. He's strong. He's straightened out. You'd never see him slouching.
Yeah, I can't picture that at all.
He paused, taking a measured sip from the mug at his elbow. A strong Forvish ale from the smell of it, and Palaeon forced himself to remain silent.
Well, that's why he has a belly. Drank too much of the Forvish.
Drink too much Forvish. That's why I'm fat in Ahsoka. That's all there was to do was drink Forvish ale. There's nothing else to do. It's not like I could have hunted a Jedi or something. I don't know. Could have taken over the entire galaxy I was in.
It's not like he could have been the Emperor.
It's not like I could have done any of that, no. I ran across an offhand reference to it some 7 years ago. What caught my attention was the fact that, although the planet had been populated for at least 300 years, both the Old Republic and the Jedi of that time had always left it strictly alone. He cocked one blue-black eyebrow slightly. What would you infer from that, Captain? What would you infer from that, MsNeet?
Something important is on there that either parties don't know about or they don't want to bring any attention to.
That it's a frontier planet, somewhere too far away for anyone to care about.
That too.
Merkur, or more precisely, one of its indigenous animals, was the first piece. The second is on a world called Wayland. He waved the data card. A world for which, thanks to the Abroans, I finally have a location. I congratulate you, Palaeon said, suddenly tired of this game.
Me too.
You feel for Palaeon
I
in this chapter,
do.
apparently.
It's like, I
You're
get
far-
it. Just come on and say it. I relate to him so much. Like, yeah. You're smarter than me. Okay.
May I ask just what exactly this puzzle is? Thrawn smiled, a smile that sent a shiver up Palaeon's back. Why, the only puzzle worth solving, of course. The complete, total, and utter destruction of the rebellion.
Now that's how you end a chapter. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, wait. I want to know if Palaeon gets out of this conversation and goes to sleep. And also, cool.
And you notice how this chapter carried it with two new characters? Two
Yeah.
characters who have never been seen in Star Wars before this point?
Oh, really?
At least I think so in the case of Palaeon.
Except for Thrawn.
I know. Yeah.
he's been
Thrawn has-
seen now.
Yeah, he's been seen now.
Oh, wait, wasn't he
unfortunately.
in the 2D one?
Yeah, he was in Rebels. It's not really a 2D.
Oh, what about Palaeon? He's gotten no screen time.
Palaeon has been seen in The Mandalorian Season 3.
Ugh.
Does this first chapter give you a sense of the plot?
Yeah, I basically told it at the end of the chapter. If you're too retarded to figure it out.
What is the plot you sense?
Stopping Thrawn from getting the holy hand grenade.
Exactly. Exactly correct. Does it set the tone of the story?
Oh yeah, this guy's a douchebag. If they wrote him correctly in the current day, it would make a lot of sense why the Empire is back in full force the way it is.
Did it deliver interesting and compelling characters that are distinct from one another?
Yeah. Haleon, even the T'Chell guy, he just wants to do good in his position.
He wants to please his commanders.
Yeah.
I like Rook, personally. I'm a Nogri fan.
Haleon.
Did the chapter hold the reader's attention?
Definitely for me.
Hell yeah. I get immersed in these books very quickly.
Yeah, until he started explaining about art, and then I was like, Paleon. My mouth would get, oh,
Was it unnaturally expositive or naturally expositive?
naturally.
Hell yeah.
I would have been raging about it if it wasn't.
Did we see the focus characters in an appropriately interesting situation?
I mean, yeah.
Did the chapter begin with an interesting line or paragraph?
Yeah.
Did it end with a cliffhanger that compels you to continue reading?
Yeah, it did.
So overall, did any of these make you want to dive into the lore of Star Wars?
Yes and no. It's the characters for me for this specific book because I like Thrawn, I like Pelion, and then figuring out what Luke, Han, and Leia are up to after they basically won in the last movie. Mostly, I want to know what what happens to Pelion. That character really captured it for me. I want to know what's gonna happen to him. So, what did we learn today, Justin?
We learned don't go to Disney for entertainment.
Unless you're going to old Disney. We also learned if you are a female writer, do not write like a female writer.
And don't read The Cousins. Fuck's sake, it pissed me off.
Well, you can catch us on the next reading of this because we're going to do the other two.
Yep, we're gonna do Light of the Jedi and Path of Destruction next. And then hopefully these will be out before The Acolyte.